Hey there gang, Patrick King here again, and now we're going to be talking about introducing your stock type horse to the shoulder in. And we're going to be doing this, hey, get back here sweetheart. We're going to be doing this from the ground, of course, again to start with. And this is Bunny. She's a quarter horse, cow horse bred from the 4/6s. And what makes the shoulder in a little bit different with these stock type horses is that they tend to be a little more restricted through the rib cage and through the back. So sometimes we run into a little bit more challenges with these horses. Our warm bloods, our thoroughbreds, kind of our longer bodied type horses, generally it's not so much of a problem once we get the relaxation through the top line because they're a little more malleable in the length of their body. Now, when we work with our stock horses, it can become a little bit challenging because it's really easy for them to start to get sticky. So it's going to be the same idea, but potentially posing some different challenges. So we're going to start out with the idea of working the jaw, asking the jaw to mobilize, just like Bunny's doing here. And she's a horse that has always presented quite a bit of tension through the top line. So the releasing of the jaw is something that we've done quite a bit with her. So we lift here, and you can see how easily she does that. That's something we'd want all of our horses to be pretty sure to do, is to carry that softness, and that we can get that softness as quickly as possible. So, or with as little effort, I should say, as possible. So because we don't have a noseband here on the halter, I'm simply going to hold my hand here soft on her face as a direction. So it's not pushing, simply holding, as if I were petting and hesitating for a moment. And I'm going to ask her to step that hind foot underneath the body. Now, as she goes, we see she's a little bit pushier for forward. And so I'll ask again here. Hesitating a little bit on the nose here, as I asked. There. Good. And starting out, when your horse shows some tension, it's important that at the slightest effort of softening or relaxing through the top line, we stop and we allow them to kind of think about that and to soak on that. So I'll ask again here, asking her to come across, stepping that hind leg underneath. There. Asking her to stop, and I may have to ask her to shift back. This is a challenge that I see with quite a few horses as we go teaching around the country. They get kind of a little pushy forward. So the contact here on the hand, I don't want to push her backwards, but I want to set my hand there and wait for her to yield back. Right now she's pushing into my hand a little bit, and you see that I kind of passively resist there. I want to be there. I want to be a fence post with legs. I can decide to move, but I can also decide to just stay here. So I'm going to wait. As the head goes down or moves around, I'm going to stay with her here until she softens there and starts coming backwards. Good. She doesn't have to take large steps or many steps backwards, but I want to feel the body get ready for stepping backwards. And if we've got a horse that habitually wants to push forward when we ask for this shoulder in idea, or we ask for this preparation through the haunches, might be a good idea to start by asking them to rock back slightly, putting a little bit of weight to the haunches in preparation for this move. So I start there with a little bit of a rock back, and then I ask for her to step across. Good. And we see how the stick against the shoulder, or as we go, maybe the stick against the haunches in a steady fashion, really helps her to understand kind of the stop cue. Something I see a lot of riders struggling with is they say, oh, my horse is scared of the whip. Well, that's a philosophical challenge. If we can teach our horse to understand that steady contact with the whip means stop, your horse isn't going to be afraid of the use of the whip anymore. Again here from this side, because I know she's going to push forward, I'm going to start with the idea of rocking backwards. There. And as we said in the earlier video, you can do this with the halter, you can do this with the bridle, you can do this with the cavesson, all right? Right now the bridle we have on her just doesn't have the noseband, so I use my hand. Rocking back, and then stepping under here. There. So again, we see the action of the stick asking her to step over. The steadiness of the stick asking her to stop. And a girl. I'll do that one more time. Rocking back first to shift the weight to the hindquarters slightly, and then bringing the stick in and asking for her to step across. Right here, she got again a little bit forward. So you see how I just stop her with my hand here. Not pushing, just letting my hand stop in midair. You're all right, sweetheart. Letting my hand stop kind of in midair to resist somewhat. We'll try to get a little better there before we move on, so I'll ask her to step across again. There. Good. And you see, when we stop, for now with her, there's a little bit of extra movement. There's a little bit of wiggle in there. I don't mind that. That'll go away. Don't pay much attention to that. Pay more attention to the positive things. Start to ignore the negative things. The negative things will go away. The positive things will come more. So we want to ask her to start stretching slightly through the top line, creating a little bit of an inside bend. If we look at how her body is positioned here, her eye comes about to the edge of the shoulder. Anything more than that right now for her would just be too much. It would throw her off balance. Something we see a lot of handlers doing when they start schooling the shoulder in is that they get the horse well overbent. Now her weight's being plunged onto the inside shoulder and she can't possibly do a correct shoulder in. We want to think about more straightness. Good job. Now from this slight bend, again I'm going to ask that hind leg to step under. And we're going to start carrying that somewhere. We see with her, she throws up a little bit of a resistance here. She tends to brace quite a bit in the pole, so we'll work again on, yeah, good job. We'll work again on softening here. If your horse is really tense and rigid in the pole, you might stay to the front here for a bit and work on just small little flexions, small little releases in the pole, trying to isolate the occiput here, trying to bring softness here. The occiput really is the doorway to the rest of the spine. If they hold tension here, they're going to hold tension everywhere else. So when there's a challenge, this is kind of my first go-to place to say, hey, can we get that soft? And you see how little the movement is. If I hold her neck straight, we might think, draw her eyelashes to the right. Straighten the neck again, draw her eyelashes to the left. Any more bend than that, and we'll see the rest of the neck becomes involved. If the length of the neck is involved, the horse can still be stuck here at the occiput, which we know is going to cause a lack of mobility in the haunches then. So we think about releasing there, releasing side to side here. Atta girl. And then I'll ask her to come on into the shoulder in again. So when I pick up the rein here on the inside, I think about her releasing here, there, through the pole, and that's going to help her to soften downward. And again, when we talk about pole flexion, the pole's just a bump here in the front of the head. It's not really, it's not a joint. When we talk pole flexion, we're really talking atlanto-occipital joint flexion. So we ask for this, this releasing and stretching down here. If your horse carries a lot of tension, it might take quite a bit of work just to get that release to happen. When we say quite a bit of work, I mean quite a bit of patience, because you can't force that to happen. I'm going to ask her here, step through then with the haunches, being really mindful that she stays loose, atta girl, that she stays loose in the occiput. You'll see when she starts to get tense or braced, first thing I start to do is lift and vibrate somewhat on the bit. If we get the jaw working, generally the occiput will soften as we go. We say the occiput is the doorway to the rest of the spine. The tongue through the hyoid apparatus really is the key that unlocks that doorway. We can get them mobile in the jaw, soft through the jaw, then we can generally get, nice job, sweetheart, we can generally get A nice release of the occiput itself. Good. And you see at all times here, I try to keep the bend just very mild. If we were to bend too much to the inside, and I'll show you here just so you know what to look for. If we were to get too much bend here to the inside, you see automatically how she starts dropping that weight to the inside shoulder. So we're not talking about a true balanced shoulder in, because we know the inside hind leg and the outside shoulder are the primary balancers. As soon as the horse drops the weight to the inside shoulder, now they're not balancing properly. So the work we get done isn't going to be very useful. Once we've got that softness coming through, then I'll begin to connect the outside rein. And we see, again, the softness in how I take the contact with the outside rein, allowing it to stay slightly in front of her withers on the neck here. I'll move out of the way so the camera can see. Okay, here, just in front of the withers, and I slightly draw downward to make a little bit of a contact. Something a lot of handlers start to do when they start working shoulder in is they think they have to reach up around their horse's neck to take that contact. Let the neck itself kind of become a pulley in that fashion so that you can keep yourself organized here. There's no sense in reaching over top when we can allow the neck to help us. Good. So we soften through the jaw, we start to connect the outside rein, and we see she starts to get a lot more engagement, a lot more somewhat sideways stepping in the haunches there, bringing the shoulders here to the inside of that circle. Atta girl. Good. When we have a horse that generally wants to carry some tension in their body, it's easy again to get that overbending happening and to get too much sideways. If we get a horse going this much sideways, now it's not a shoulder in. It's more like an ugly leg yield. Okay, that's important to keep in mind as well. Soften the jaw. Ask her to move forward. Of course, this is work that we would want to do on both sides of our horse, being patient and taking it as slow as they say is necessary, so that we can keep the softness through the body. I'm going to take her over to the fence line now so you can see how this looks, again, from the more stretched position and then in a little bit more of the connected position. Again, from the side here, I can focus on where I want to go. I keep my gaze down the fence line here, and I can ask her to reach and stretch. When she's got that, I'll start to draw the outside rein and ask her to begin to connect. Good. Nice. We see a little bit right there. As she was going, she started kind of tilting the head a little bit. That's a general stiffness. That's not something we can push them through. You see, my response when she does that is to ask her to soften that jaw, and I might release a little bit the outside rein. If we start to connect the outside rein and your horse starts tilting the head around, getting all skewed through the balance in the head, what I'll do is release that rein again, working more on the softness and the relaxation through the spine. Your horse's head should hang straight down, plumb, so to speak, from the neck when we go through our lateral work. If you're in any of your lateral work and your horse is tilting their head, it's because of tension somewhere through the body, and the movement, the balance is going to be compromised as a result of that tension. So always, again, focus on slow, soft, and correct. I hope that's helpful, guys, and we'll come at you with a part 3 of this here soon. Thanks so much. And there's Rambo helping, and there's Bigfoot getting into trouble.